I was prepared to cut myself open to save my dying son. It was a father's duty. It is what any parent would do without a second thought. But my wife, she refused to even take a blood test.
The Quiet Case Files.
She sat there weeping, claiming she was afraid of needles. At the time, I thought she was just being a coward. I thought she was weak. But when the doctor finally handed me the tissue typing report, I realized she was not scared of the needle. She was scared of the truth. My son was not my son. They say blood is thicker than water, but in my house, the secrets were thicker than both. And when the truth finally bled out, it did not just save a life, it ended a marriage. It was a Tuesday night when the world fell out from under us. We were sitting at the dining room table, just the three of us. Michael, my son, had come over for pot roast. He is 26 years old now, a strong young man, or at least I thought he was. He had been looking a little pale all evening, picking at his food, but he brushed it off as work stress. We were talking about his new job at the architecture firm when his eyes just rolled back in his head. He didn't make a sound. He just slumped forward, his face hitting the mashed potatoes with a dull thud. The next 6 hours were a blur of siren lights and antiseptic hospital hallways. Linda was hysterical in the waiting room, pacing back and forth, clutching her purse like a shield. I just sat there, staring at the scuff marks on the linoleum floor, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to in years. When the doctor finally came out, he looked exhausted. He told us it was rapid onset IgA nephropathy, an aggressive autoimmune disease. Michael's kidneys were not just struggling, they were failing. He was drowning in his own toxins. They had started him on emergency dialysis immediately, but the doctor was blunt. Dialysis was just buying time. It was not a cure. The doctor told us the hard truth. Dialysis was a stopgap. To give Michael a real life, he needed a kidney transplant. A living donor was the gold standard. I did not even let him finish the sentence. I stood up and told him to test me immediately. I am his father. I would give him my heart if he needed it. It was instinct. I looked at Linda, expecting her to be right beside me, demanding the same test. The doctor turned to her. He explained that screening both parents would double our chances of finding a compatible match. It was simple math. But Linda, she froze. She did not stand up. She sank deeper into the plastic chair. She started stammering, her voice high and thin. She said she was too old. She said her health was not good enough. She said she was terrified of hospitals, that she could not handle the surgery. I stared at her in disbelief. Our only child was hooked up to a machine down the hall, and she was making excuses? I thought she was just in shock. I thought she was panicked. Her hesitation was the first crack in the foundation. But I was too focused on saving Michael to see the house was already falling down. I spent the next 48 hours being poked and prodded. They took vial after vial of blood. They ran heart monitors, chest x-rays, and urine analysis. I felt like a pincushion, but I did not care. Every time the needle went in, I just pictured Michael walking out of that hospital. I was healthy. I was fit for my age. I was O negative, the universal donor for blood. So I assumed I had a leg up. I was practically vibrating with anticipation when the nephrologist, Dr. Evans, called me into his office. I sat down, ready to schedule the surgery. But Dr. Evans did not have the surgical calendar open. He was holding a file, looking at it like it was written in a foreign language. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He told me I was not a match. I felt the air leave my lungs. I asked if it was my blood pressure or my age. He shook his head slowly. He said it was not my health. It was the blood type. He looked me right in the eye and said, "Robert, you are type O negative. Michael is type AB positive." I stared at him. I knew basic biology. I knew O negative was good. I asked him why that mattered. He hesitated, tapping his pen on the desk. "Because," he said, An O-negative father cannot produce an AB-positive child. I laughed. It was a dry, nervous sound that barely escaped my throat. I told him there had to be a mistake. I told him labs mix up samples all the time. I insisted they rerun the test. I was not angry yet. I was just confused. It felt like he was telling me the sky was green. But Dr. Evans did not laugh. He did not check his computer screen again. He just sat there with his hands folded on top of the file, looking at me with a pity that made my stomach turn. He explained that while lab errors are possible, they had double-checked the typing because of the discrepancy. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice even though the door was closed. He suggested that before we move forward with any donor exchange programs, which require strict biological profiling, I should consider a private DNA test. He said it carefully, choosing his words like he was walking through a minefield. He was giving me an out, a way to know for sure, without putting it on the official medical record yet. The room went absolutely still. The hum of the air conditioner seemed to vanish. The doctor did not say the word adultery. He did not have to. The silence in the room screamed it. I did not go home to Linda that night. Instead, I drove to a 24-hour pharmacy 3 blocks from the hospital. I bought a home paternity kit, the kind you see advertised on daytime television. I felt ridiculous standing in the checkout line, holding a box that promised to destroy my life for $40. I went back to the hospital and waited until the night nurses finished their rounds. It was 3 a.m. The only sound was the rhythmic beeping of Michael's monitors. He was sedated, his face pale against a white pillow. I felt like a thief in my own life. My hand was shaking as I opened the sterile package. I swabbed inside of my own cheek first. Then I leaned over the bed rail. I gently opened Michael's mouth and swabbed his cheek. He stirred slightly, and my heart hammered against my ribs, but he did not wake up. I sealed the samples in the envelope and drove straight to the overnight shipping center. I paid extra for the expedited service. I needed to know when the email notification chimed on my phone 2 days later. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking garage. I opened the PDF attachment. I scrolled past the legal disclaimers to the bottom of the page. Probability of paternity, 0%. Excluded. I sat there staring at the phone screen until the backlight dimmed and turned off. 0. It was not just a number. It was an erasure of my entire history as a father. My mind immediately started racing backward, rewinding the tape of our marriage. 27 years ago, we were newlyweds. We were struggling to pay the mortgage on our starter home. Linda was working as an executive assistant for a high-end real estate firm downtown. Her boss was a man named Sterling. He was flashy, arrogant, and wealthy beyond belief. I remember the late nights Linda spent at the office. She told me they were closing big deals, that she had to stay for the paperwork. I remember the Christmas bonuses that seemed absurdly large for a secretary. I was so naive. I was so grateful for the extra money. I closed my eyes and summoned an image of Michael's face, the sharp jawline, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. I had always told myself he took after Linda's side of the family. But now, overlaid with the memory of Sterling, the resemblance was sickeningly clear. It had been staring me in the face for decades. I had raised another man's son. I had paid for his braces, his college tuition, his first car. I walked back into the hospital room. Linda was sleeping in the chair next to the bed. I looked at the boy I raised for 26 years. I still loved him. He was innocent in this. But I looked at my wife, and I felt nothing but cold calculation. I did not wake her up. I did not throw the papers in her face. That would have been too easy. Instead, I left the hospital and drove straight to the office of my estate attorney. Arthur had been handling my business for 20 years. He looked confused when I walked in without an appointment, but one look at my face told him this was not a social visit. I told him to rewrite my will immediately. I instructed him to remove Michael from the standard biological heir clause. It sounded cruel, but it was necessary protection. Instead, I had Arthur set up an irrevocable discretionary trust. Every dime I had intended for Michael would go into that trust. The stipulations were ironclad. Michael would have full access for his medical bills and living expenses, but the trustee would be a third party, and there was one specific clause. Under no circumstances could any of the funds be transferred, gifted, or accessed by Linda. If I died, she would get the house and the marital assets required by law, but she would not get a penny of the legacy I built for the boy. Next, I hired a private investigator to confirm Sterling's whereabouts. It took 2 hours. He was still in the city, still wealthy, and still alive. I had the leverage. Now I needed the audience. I called Dr. Evans and asked him to arrange a private family conference. The meeting was set for the following afternoon in the doctor's consultation room. It was a small, windowless space with a round table in the center. I arrived early. I sat with my back to the door, watching the second hand tick around the clock on the wall. When Linda walked in, she looked terrible. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She sat down opposite me, avoiding my gaze. Dr. Evans entered a moment later, clutching a clipboard. He looked tense. He knew something was wrong, but he did not know the full extent of my plan. I started the meeting before the doctor could even sit down. I told him I had spent the last day thinking about our options. I told him I had done some soul-searching. I kept my voice steady, devoid of emotion. I watched Linda's hands. They were trembling in her lap. She was terrified I was going to push her to get tested again. She was right, but not in the way she expected. I leaned forward, rested my elbows on the table. I looked directly at her. I told her I had spoken to the transplant team about alternative options, but the wait list was 5 years long. Michael did not have 5 years. He barely had 5 weeks. I told her there was only one path forward. I had the trap set. I just needed her to walk into it. I turned to Dr. Evans and nodded, a signal he did not understand but followed anyway. Then I looked at Linda and lied. I said, "The doctor and I reviewed my test results again. It turns out I'm a tissue match." Linda's head snapped up. Relief washed over her face. So visibly it was pathetic. She let out a sob, reaching for my hand across the table. "Oh, thank God," she whispered. "Thank God, Robert." But I pulled my hand away. "There is a problem," I said, my voice dropping to a grave whisper. "I have a minor heart arrhythmia. It showed up on the stress test. The surgical team says the anesthesia is too risky for me. They won't operate." The relief on her face shattered instantly. She looked from me to the doctor, panic rising in her throat. Dr. Evans looked confused. He knew my heart was fine, but he stayed silent, sensing the volatility of the moment. I stood up and walked around the table until I was standing right behind her chair. "So it has to be you, Linda," I said. "You are the only option left. It is life or death. You have to test now." Linda started shaking her head violently. "No," she gasped. "I can't. I told you I can't." I leaned down, bringing my face close to her ear. "Why?" I asked calmly. "Is it because you're scared? Or is it because you know he is not a match for you either?" The room went dead silent. Linda froze. Her eyes darted to the doctor, then back to me. She looked like a trapped animal. The realization hit her that I knew. She opened her mouth to speak, to lie again, but the words died in her throat. The pressure was suffocating. She knew that if she refused the test without a reason, she would look like a monster who let her son die. But if she took the test, the biological impossibility would be revealed on paper for the world to see. She broke. It was not a graceful confession. It was an ugly, desperate collapse. She started crying, her face buried in her hands. "I can't match him," she sobbed. "I know I won't match him." I stood up straight and crossed my arms. "Why, Linda?" I demanded. "Why are you so sure?" She looked up at me, mascara running down her cheeks, her face twisted in anguish. "Because of Sterling," she screamed. "It was Sterling. It was one time, Robert. I didn't know." The doctor quietly stood up and stepped back against the wall, tried to make himself invisible. Linda reached out, grabbing the sleeve of my jacket. "Please," she begged. "Please, Robert. You have to save him. You're his father in every way that matters. Don't let him die because of my mistake." She thought the truth would buy her mercy. She was wrong. I did not yell. I did not flip the table. I simply unpeeled her fingers from my jacket and stepped back. "You are right," I said. "I am his father, and that is why I am going to save him, but not with my kidney." I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing in the chair. The next morning, a process server handed Linda divorce papers at the hospital cafeteria. I had them drawn up overnight. While she was reading them, I was in a conference room downtown, sitting across from Sterling. He had aged well, but he looked nervous. He knew why I was there. I slid a manila envelope across the polished mahogany table. Inside was a DNA report and a letter from my lawyer outlining a very public, very messy lawsuit for paternity fraud and emotional distress. I gave him a choice. He could go to court, have his name dragged through the mud, and explain to his socialite wife why he had a secret son dying in a hospital. Or he could walk into that hospital, get tested, and if he was a match, he would donate. If he wasn't, he would pay for the most expensive, expedited private donor exchange program in the country. He did not hesitate. He chose a quiet way out. He matched. The surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The transplant was a success. Michael's color came back within days. He never knew the full details of the donor. We told him it was an anonymous match from the National Registry, facilitated by a private grant. It was a lie, but it was a kind one. He did not need to carry the burden of his conception while he was trying to heal. Linda was removed from the house. She moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Michael still talks to her, and I do not stop him. That is his relationship to manage. But for me, she is a ghost. I finalized the adoption papers 6 months later. It was a formality. Really, legally, I adopted the man I had raised from a boy. We sat in the judge's chambers, 2 grown men signing a piece of paper that said we were father and son. It was the proudest moment of my life. Tonight, the house is quiet. The divorce is final. The trust is secure. I am sitting in my leather armchair, swirling a glass of 12-year-old scotch. The fire is crackling in the hearth. I am alone, but I am not lonely. I did my duty. I saved my son. And the liar who almost cost him his life is gone. The silence in this house isn't empty. It's peaceful.
If you enjoy radio-style stories like this, please consider staying with us. This is QCF.